We're filming today for the Hamilton College Jazz Archive. My name is Monk Rowe, and it's a great pleasure to have with us saxophonist Flip Phillips. And I have to ask you what it's like to play with all these friends at this festival, and it's interesting to stand backstage and watch everybody come in and greet
Are
their
you
friends.
talking about Wednesday night?
Yes.
That was quite a thrill for me because I haven't seen some of these fellows in years, you know. And I think it was the oldest band I ever played with.
There's a lot of years on stage.
Oh, yeah. And it was
Yeah.
great to see everybody, you know, and literally to see them, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of them aren't here now. And it was great. I really enjoyed it, you know.
Well, you've had quite a career as a musician. Would you do it all over again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a great life. Wonderful. I had hard times, good times, but all in all, everything was great.
I've read something about your career, and you started on clarinet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first instrument. My cousin, Frank Reeder, was an excellent musician, excellent saxophone player, too, and clarinet. And I sort of looked up to him, and he bought me this clarinet for $10, you know, in 1927. And it was just wonderful. I started on that, and he told me if you want to play the saxophone, start on the clarinet, because that's a good foundation for you, and the saxophone will come easier to you, which it did, you know. The clarinet is a little more intricate, and you have to close the holes, and the saxophone has buttons, and it was a good thing. If anybody's starting to play, would start on clarinet first. You know.
Good advice. When was your first, do you remember your first professional engagement?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had the clarinet for about 2 weeks. And I went on my first job. I got $1.50. And I wasn't thinking about that. I just wanted to play it.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
It was good.
And this was in Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn,
Yeah.
1927.
Tell me about the...
That was a good year, you know. That was the year Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs, and Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic. That's when I started.
And you started on the clarinet. A very good year, indeed.
That's a good year.
Tell me about Schneider's Lobster House. Was this a place you played for a while?
Schneider's Lobster House was in Brooklyn, and it was right near St. John's College. They had a great basketball team and a great baseball team. And that was in 1934, I think, 35. And all the young kids that went to college used to come into Schneider's. It was swinging. It was a swinging club, you know, for Brooklyn.
Yeah.
All the kids, college kids from St. John's, they used to come into Schneider's Lobster House. And those years it was the Dipsy Doodle and Lindy Hop and all that. And the place was swinging. It was a good place.
The music, the jazz at the time, was it moving from Dixieland to swing? Was it kind of in the middle, or can you describe it at all?
Well, it was swinging in those days. Like, I remember Benny Goodman was just starting out and all of that. He had the band, and Billy Rose in New York. He wasn't very popular yet, you know, but he was a good player and he had good bands and everything. But he wasn't that popular until he made that tour to California. And there were a lot of good players.
When you moved to tenor sax...
Well, I played with Frankie Newton in 1939. I was still playing clarinet. We opened Kelly's Stables in New York. And Phillips was swinging, and you know, had Pete Brown and Frankie, Eddie Dougherty on drums, Harry Prate on the bass, and Dave Rivera and Ram Ramirez on the piano. And it was a swinging club. Everybody used to come in to the club. That's when Coleman Hawkins came back from Europe in 1939-40. We opened it in 1940. In 1939, it was on 51st Street. In 1940, he opened on 52nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the main band. And Nat King Cole was the relief trio.
Not bad relief.
Yeah, and Slim and Slam was the other relief team. Art Tatum used to play the off night.
Oh.
It was just wonderful. You know?
Uh-huh. Wow. That was a happening scene, 52nd Street at that time.
Oh, that was a swing in the street in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was there.
When you were first learning the tenor, did you have someone you wanted to sound like at that
tenor?
time? Was it?
I played alto before the
Oh.
tenor, and the first guy I ever listened to was Frankie Tromba. It was in 1927.
Mm-hmm.
He made that record that Bix at Singing the Blues,
Yeah.
and I heard him play that, and I says, "Wow, he knows he's good. He knows how to play the intervals. You know, he was wonderful, and that's the first guy I ever heard. Then I heard everybody else,
Right.
but he was the first
Uh-huh.
guy that influenced,
Mm-hmm.
that made something with me. I said,
Right.
"Oh, this guy."
Yeah.
In those days, they had Andy Sinella and Rudy Wiedoff and different saxophone players, but this guy,
Yeah.
Frankie Tromba, could really play the saxophone, you know. And I said, "That's it." So
Wasn't there some of those guys were almost doing like this semi-classical saxophone,
and it
like
was
Rudy?
slap tonguing, and
Yeah.
the Flight of the Bumblebee
Yeah.
and all that, you know.
Yeah.
But Frankie played good,
Mm-hmm.
good sound,
Yeah.
good intervals, good, and he swung too, you know. He was the first guy.
So from the time you were in your early 20s, you said, "I'm going to be a musician this is my career."
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And
I liked it, you know. You gotta like it to do it, and I stayed with it. I loved it. I rather play than eat. You know, I remember I used to play, and my mother used to call me, come in, just a minute. You know. And I'd play with everybody. I'd be sitting in here, there.
Mhm.
And I loved it.
great. How did the first time with Woody Herman come about?
First time with Woody Herman. Well, I was with Russ Morgan before that. No, I was with Red Norval, and Ralph Burns was a piano player. Then I went with Russ Morgan, and Ralph went with Charlie Barnett, and then he went with Woody. And Ralph told Woody about me, you know, and I didn't want to leave Russ Morgan.
Yeah.
It was a nice job and all
Uh-huh.
that, but he said he'd write the book around me and all that, and I said, okay, so I went with Woody.
Uh-huh. Were you Flip then? Did you get that nickname
Yeah. Had a
before?
long
You had a
time,
long
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
long time.
Kind of stuck with you, I guess.
Yeah.
Now you and Bill Harris were quite a
Oh,
team.
he was my partner.
Yeah.
He was great. Play any which way you want, you
Mhm.
know. Play a soulful or lagging, fighting, shout, lovely ballad. He played any way, any mood you'd get in. He was there. He was a good player.
And this group played mostly for dances, and
Uh,
Woody
what-
Herman's group?
Woody Herman?
Yeah, at that time.
Oh, we used to play all the one-nighters, you know, they
Right.
all dance. But most of them used to stand in front of the band and watch us, you know.
Yeah.
That's how the concerts came about. They saw all these people standing in front. Why not get seats and play for them? That's why it came about. But they used to play the big auditoriums, big ballrooms, you know, and half of the people were in front listening to the band. The other people were dancing in the back. And they got the idea when we sold tickets
Right.
years ago.
Yeah. What was it like getting to see the country at that point?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was a little tougher than it is today to travel, you know, but we had one road to get into the town. It was asphalt roads. That's the only way you could get in, one way. Now they got the super highways and planes, and all we had was buses.
Man.
And some of them used to break down.
Yeah.
And they didn't have these McDonald's or Burger King. They had nothing. Sometimes there was no place to eat. You'd have to stock up if you're making a trip at night.
Wow.
So, but I was younger, and it was fun. We had some great nights, you know, playing, and it was all worth it.
You were doing what you wanted to.
Hmm?
You were doing what you liked.
Oh yeah, it was great. We had some great times.
And the Norman Grands picked you out for the jazz at the Philharmonic.
Yeah. That's after the bands broke
Yeah,
up. The
yeah.
big band started to break up. Woody broke up in 1946. And I joined. Norman called me, and I came in 1946 in September. We started. You know. At the beginning, he just toured on the West Coast in 44 and 45. He never went cross country. In 46, he started to go all over the United States. You know. And that was the first time he went out.
Yeah.
And I was with him for 11 years, 1957.
Who else was on the tour? Well,
Jazz
a lot of different
at
people.
the beginning,
Yeah.
we had everybody. He put together the best in jazz, the best in music, the best players. He was the only man that I know that could do a thing like that, to assemble a group like that. All the best. Your tenor saxophones was Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young, Ben Webster, Illinois Jacket, Stan Getz, Sonny Stitt. I hope I don't leave anybody out. All the best. On the trumpets, he had Roy Eldridge, Charlie Shavers, Dizzy Gillespie, Sweets, Fats Navarro, all the best in jazz. And any section, the rhythm section, you had the best. Hank Jones, Oscar Peterson, Buddy Rich, Louis Belson, Joe Jones, Gene Krupa.
Wow.
Nobody could do that but Norman Granz. And he should be well honored for that, you know. The best. As far as singers, he had Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, Helen Hume. The best in the world. And I don't know of anybody else that could do that. That was the highlights of everybody's life, I would say. But mine, alto players, the best, Charlie Parker, Benny Carter, Johnny Hodges. You couldn't top that. Well, in San Francisco, we outdrew Bonham and Bailey, so that'll tell you. No,
And you would get, he would put you in different combinations.
Yeah, he just it's different sets, and some of the nights were unbelievable that we didn't record. And why didn't we record that one, you know? And many, many nights, these players were on, you know, and they were phenomenal. They were the best, and like the certain nights, it was just, wow. It's unbelievable.
just take off, huh?
It was I'd call that the greatest show on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, they did record one particular night where you played the solo on Perdido, which is
Yeah,
kind of followed you around.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And that came off. We had a concert in not the Adams, Syria Mosque Theater in Newark at 8 o'clock. And at 12 o'clock, we went to Carnegie Hall in New York. And that's when it was made, 1947. We played it, and everybody was relaxed, and it just came off. But, it was wonderful, you know, at the time, and we didn't think anything of it. And then when the record, all the disc jockeys stopped playing it, and it was quite a thing. It was, it sold 1 million albums.
Yeah.
For an instrumental. That's
Wow.
great. And it was just great.
Yeah.
Well, a good rhythm section there. And Joe Jones, Hank Jones, Ray Brown. It was a
How can you go
Funny
wrong with
test.
those guys behind
funny
you? Huh?
test.
Yeah.
It was just a great rhythm section, a great bunch of guys, and it happened. That was one of the nights it came off.
Mhm.
You know?
Illinois had almost a similar type thing with Flying Home.
Sure.
And, you know,
He did.
it's interesting, those certain moments that,
Right.
that happen to get caught. And
Right.
I guess radio was a huge part of,
Radio was the only thing then. There was no television,
Mhm.
you know. No, every town you went to, they played them. You'd make interviews, you know, and it was radio was the whole thing. It's not like today.
Mhm.
Television knocked us out of the box.
Yeah, other people have said that.
You want to know why?
Yes, I do.
My opinion, of course, we didn't move around as much as these people do. Jumping up in the air,
yeah.
coming out of the earth,
Yeah,
coming out of the grave and jumping with the lights. We didn't do that.
yeah.
Oscar Peterson played a hell of a piano, you know, but he didn't jump down in the thing. He
Yeah.
didn't have the lights flashing.
Yeah.
Jacket could move, I could move, but we didn't have the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
these guys came along with the lights and jumping from the ceilings and all
Yeah.
that.
Right.
And that's
Well.
what television is moving pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the people want to see, you move.
Yeah.
It's moving pictures.
You spent a little time touring with Benny Goodman too.
Yeah.
I'm watching the time
Yeah.
too. We'll wrap up here pretty quick.
I gotta make a
I know. Jerry Dodgen.
Yeah, I saw him I didn't saw him. He called me before he came here.
Yeah.
He was quite a player, Jerry.
He's a nice guy. He told me to ask you about something.
Oh, yeah.
The IWS tour. He made me promise I'd ask.
IWS.
IWS. You want to talk about that for a
I put it
moment?
on my horn, on my saxophone case, IWS. Well, he told you to say that. Well, Benny used to pick on everybody.
Yeah.
Picked on everybody but me. Let's put it that way.
Uh-huh.
And that IWS was, I won't snap. I don't care what you say, I won't snap, you know. And I mean, when people used to get mad at him, I'd go, IWS. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I told you. I won't snap.
Wow.
Which I did one time.
Yeah.
No, I didn't snap out. Benny used to pick on everybody, you know. So I got fed up. I went in his dressing room one time. I said, look, Pops, what are you putting down? I said, you're the best clarinet player in the world. You played Carnegie Hall, you played Symphony Hall, you played all over. The only place you haven't played is the Moon. And his answer was, I thought, go out and play your clarinet, and so you play better than anybody. His answer was, you know, Pops, you're right. And since that time, he went out and played, and he played better than he ever played, ever in his life. His wife, John Hammond, came over. I never heard him play like that.
Wow.
He was like a baby. He needed a little...
He just needed someone
he
to
needed
tell him.
something to tell him. He was picking on her, which was, I told him the truth, you know. He was the best clarinet player. He played all over it, but he was picking on things, you know. He had some kind of a complex. I said, don't do it. I just go out and play your clarinet. You've been all over the world. You haven't played on the moon. That's the only place. I go out and play your clarinet. But I still remember the answer. He goes,
Yeah.
you know, Pops, you're right. And that straightened him out. And he could play. Right after that, he played it. Everybody was astounded. Just woke him up like it.
Wow. Maybe you should have gone into therapy and
Yeah.
done that for a few other fellas.
But he did pick on everybody.
Uh-huh.
But he got straightened out.
Yeah.
I played golf with him. I went fishing
Right.
with him and all that. He was like a big baby, you know. He had got things his way, and which is okay, you know. But if he see something, he'd pick.
Yeah.
Pick. Unnecessary, you know.
Have you ever had occasion to play much with Joe Williams?
No, not too much.
Not too much.
We played a couple of times
Few
together at a
festivals
club
together.
in
Yeah.
Florida. Oh, we had a ball.
Yeah.
Joe can swing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a couple of things with Joe.
I know you've stood beside Lester Young a few times.
Hmm?
Lester Young.
Oh, yeah. He was well, he wouldn't ride with no one but me.
Mhm.
You know, driving the car, he'd sit in the back. Oscar was in the front. And Norman would say at the beginning of the tour, he says, Prez, who you riding with? Well, you know who my bitch is. Lady Flip. You know, he wouldn't ride with nobody.
Yeah.
And we got along great. I used to fix his horn
Yeah.
and all that, you know. But he was wonderful. He never bothered anybody,
Mhm.
and he just had his own way of doing things, you know. And we got along great. Good player.
Great, yeah.
But I knew Lester before Jazz at the Philharmonic. I met him when he left Count Basie in 1938, 39, something like that. And he was in New York, and he did a couple of gigs with us with Frankie Newton. See, I was playing clarinet,
Mhm.
and Lester and Pete Brown. But I knew him before that. And he's big and strong, you know. He used to hold his horn like this. And we got along then, you know. But when we Jazz the Philharmonic, we were closer, you
Uh-huh.
know. And we had many good times.
Yeah.
Good player. Loved him.
What's in the immediate future for you? Any travel plans?
I just take the things they make me comfortable on.
Yeah.
I had a little mishap,
Yeah.
as you know, but those things happen. And I still like to play, but I
Yeah.
can't make the one-nighters anymore, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough. It's
Right.
like one after another, you know.
And you've been down here in Florida for...
Yeah, I've been down here. Well, came down here in 1957, 58, 57. Yeah, it's almost 30 years. I was 29 years. Is it 29, 57 to 90, 39? Wow.
Wow.
Wow, that's a long time. Yeah. When I came down here, there was nothing here. This was all swamps. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. In Pampa, it was a fishing village. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's getting like
Yeah.
New York.
You get to New York much?
I get there once in a while.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going on May 9th
Mm-hmm.
to play a think Lionel Hampton's going to be on it.
Yeah.
Dick Hyman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good people. Well, this
But
is.
I just kind of cool it, you know.
Well, I think you've paid your dues.
I think I did.
Yeah.
I think I did. Yeah.
Well, it's been fascinating talking with you.
Like say, I played with, my final saying like is, I played with the greatest musicians in the world, I think. The greatest. All the best. And I did come up in the greatest era of music the United States ever had. And I'm glad I was part of it. You know, the music, it was the greatest era, I think. If you remember that era.
It's quite a gift to the whole world.
That's right.
Really.
I'm glad I was part of it.
Yeah.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that. Double.
Okay.
Well, thanks. Thanks for coming over and fitting us into your busy schedule
you.
here, and it's been a real
Thank you.
pleasure.